U.S. President Donald Trump's latest Iran pressure campaign is now running into resistance from a U.S. Navy's own top admiral, who is wary of stretching the USS Gerald R. Ford far beyond its planned deployment and straining both the ship and its crew. Trump has directed the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group to leave its Caribbean mission and head toward the Middle East, escalating the U.S. show of force in response to surging tensions with Iran and stalled nuclear diplomacy. The USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group is already operating under U.S. Central Command in waters near Iran, providing Washington with a powerful, continuously available carrier presence for any potential contingency in the region. Trump has openly framed the deployment of a second carrier as leverage, saying the added firepower is meant to pressure Tehran back to the table and force progress on a tougher nuclear agreement on U.S. terms. More than 4,000 sailors live and work aboard the Ford, a flagship best-in-show carrier that functions like a massive floating city, complete with tight routines, long watches, and the constant hum of flight deck operations at sea. On board, crew members rely on gyms, small shipboard stores, and an industrial-scale galley capable of turning out tens of thousands of meals a day, sustaining round-the-clock operations during months-long deployments. The Ford-class carrier is designed to host around 90 aircraft, including multiple squadrons of F/A-18 Super Hornet fighters, giving commanders a formidable mix of strike power, air defense, and surveillance options at sea. But Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Daryl Caudle has warned he would push back against extending the Ford yet again, arguing that endless deployments disrupt sailors' lives, break maintenance plans, and over-rely on carriers for every crisis. Chief of U.S. Naval Operations Admiral Daryl Caudle said, "I think the Ford, from its capability perspective, would be an invaluable option for any military thing the President wants to do. But if it requires an extension, it's going to get some pushback from the CNO. And I will see if there is something else I can do. I am a big non-fan of extensions. I'm a sailors first CNO. People want to have some type of certainty that they're going to do a 7-month deployment." The USS Gerald R. Ford left its home port of Norfolk in late June 2025 for a planned Mediterranean deployment, beginning what was supposed to be a routine cruise that has steadily grown longer and more complex over time. By redirecting the Ford and its strike group to the Middle East instead of allowing it to head home, the new orders stretched the deployment further, pushing the crew into an unusually long stretch away from families, training cycles, and scheduled ship maintenance. The Ford is expected to reach Middle Eastern waters roughly by late February, but officials have given no firm end date for the mission, leaving sailors facing an open-ended deployment with only rough guesses about when they might finally turn back toward Norfolk. Trump has mentioned a vague 1-month window, hinting that the carrier could remain on station for about that long. Yet he has tied any actual withdrawal to progress on a possible nuclear deal with Iran, making the schedule dependent on unpredictable high-stakes diplomacy. Admiral Daryl Caudle has cautioned that keeping the Ford out for more than 200 days under high-tempo, combat-ready conditions will carry a price to be paid, in the form of worn-down crews, mounting maintenance demands, and a carrier force that becomes harder to keep ready for future crises. This all unfolds against the tragic backdrop of a 21-year-old Marine who fell overboard from a USS Jima in the Caribbean and was later declared dead, turning a high-profile mission into a story marked by personal loss and sacrifice. On February 11th, a U.S. guided missile destroyer struck a Navy supply ship during a tricky at-sea refueling maneuver, briefly jolting the replenishment mission and highlighting how dangerous close-quarters naval operations can be even far from any enemy fire. In a striking twist, the helicopter transporting captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro actually touched down on the Iwo Jima itself, turning the amphibious assault ship into a temporary holding platform before he was flown onward to the United States for detention in New York. After he went overboard, U.S. forces mounted a massive 72-hour search effort across the Caribbean Sea, and only once that round-the-clock mission failed to find him did commanders make the agonizing decision to declare the young Marine dead. The Marine Corps later confirmed that his loss was the first U.S. fatality linked to Operation Southern Spear, the Trump-ordered campaign targeting drug boats and regional threats in the Caribbean and nearby waters. U.S. Southern Command told the BBC that only 2 people suffered minor injuries in the refueling collision, and that both injured personnel were in stable condition after receiving prompt medical attention. After the impact, both the destroyer and the fast combat support ship remained seaworthy and quickly moved on under their own power, continuing their missions away from the collision site instead of needing to limp back to port. In a separate controversy, reports have claimed the U.S. Air Force began taking delivery of new F-35 fighters configured without working onboard radars, raising pointed questions about how those advanced jets could be safely used or trained with in the meantime. According to reporting cited from Defense Daily, the flow of Radarless F-35s allegedly started around June 2025 with newer production lots, forcing crews to operate them using temporary ballast in the nose instead of the planned radar hardware. Outlets like Militani have linked the problem to delays and design issues with the latest AN/APG-85 radar upgrade, saying the sensor was pushed back in the production schedule and left aircraft arriving before the radar was actually ready to install. The U.S. Air Force, however, has publicly denied that it has accepted F-35 jets without radars, insisting that despite security-related secrecy, it has not fielded frontline fighters that would be effectively flying blind. Alongside carrier moves, Washington has positioned THAAD and Patriot air defense batteries and various armed drones at bases across the Middle East, building a layered shield meant to track and intercept missiles or drones launched by Iran or its partners. Iranian officials have repeatedly warned that any strike on their territory would bring swift retaliation against American bases in the region, threatening a broad regional clash that could pull in U.S. forces from Iraq to the Gulf. Tehran has signaled that the arrival of a second U.S. carrier near its shores would be viewed as a definite step towards war, framing the buildup not as routine deterrence but as a direct sign that Washington may be preparing for open conflict. On February 6, U.S. and Iranian officials engaged in indirect nuclear talks in Oman that ended without any real breakthrough, exposing deep disagreements yet still keeping the door open for more negotiations in the coming days. Soon after the Oman talks, Trump welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and stressed that negotiations must continue, while again warning Tehran that the U.S. is ready to escalate pressure if it refuses tougher limits. Behind the scenes, Trump is actively weighing potential military options against Iran, leaving the Pentagon to plan for possible strikes even as diplomats try to keep fragile nuclear discussions alive. Trump has publicly warned that failing to reach an agreement on Iran's nuclear program would be very traumatic for the country, implying that renewed sanctions, military action, or both could follow if Tehran refuses his terms. On February 13, Trump escalated his rhetoric further by saying that a change in power in Iran would be the best thing that could happen, signaling that his pressure campaign is aimed not just at a deal but at weakening the current leadership in Tehran.
So we had a great visit at Fort Bragg. We saw a lot of heroes. And as you probably heard, we're going to be giving one particular person the Congressional Medal of Honor for what just took place in Venezuela. And met a lot of people right now. We were there for quite a while, and it was beautiful. These are great warriors. These are great patriots. And they're in very good shape, I will tell you that.
What can Iran do to avoid attack?
Give us the deal that they should have given us the first time. If they give us the right deal, we won't do that. But, you know, historically, they haven't done that. I will say they want to talk, but so far they do a lot of talking and no action.
When are those talks, Mr. President?
They've already started.
Do you want regime change in Iran?
Well, it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen. For 47 years, they've been talking and talking and talking. In the meantime, we've lost a lot of lives while they talk, and legs blown off, arms blown off, faces blown off. It's been going on for a long time, so let's see what happens. In the meantime, we have tremendous power has arrived, and additional power, as you know, another carrier is going out shortly. So we'll see it out. If we could get it settled for once and for all, that would be good.
Who would you want to take over?
What?
Who would you want to take over?
I don't want to talk about that.
Mr. President, have you spoken to Secretary Duffy since Wednesday's incident?
No, he's doing a great job.
You said inside that the radionuclear sites have been totally obliterated. What's left to go after?
Well, you could get whatever the dust is down there. That's really the least of the mission. If we do it, that would be the least of the mission. But we, probably grab whatever's left. It has been obliterated, as you know.
Would you accept anything less than zero nuclear enrichment?
We don't want any enrichment.
Mr. President.
We don't want enrichment. Thank you very much, everybody.